Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Kyle, just a car guy from New York, making videos about cars, and I am pretty deep into my search for my next car. Let me tell you, right now is not a great time to be looking for a car. The car market is pretty shot, rates are through the roof, but I kind of have to be looking for a car right now because the car I want is getting harder and harder to find, and it's getting more and more expensive. As of this week, Car Gurus has 65 or 66 of the car I want across the entire nation. So with that being said, I figured I would give you guys the 7 P's that I've been using to decide what car I want. Maybe it'll help you guys find your car, maybe it'll help you figure out why you want the car you want or why you don't want the car that you thought you wanted. Let's get into it. So the first P is purpose. Why am I buying the car that I want to buy? What kind of car do I want in the first place? Do I want a purpose-built sports car? Do I want a big heavy cruiser? Do I want something that can carve the canyons? Do I want something that's ready for the track or just a general show car? Or do I want something that I can do a little bit of everything pretty well? Is this car going to be my weekend toy? Is it going to be my daily driver? Am I buying it as a weekend toy and might have to use it as a daily driver? These are the things that you got to consider when you're thinking about the purpose of the car. The next P is price. You can spec a car out as nice as you want, but at the end of the day, if it's out of your budget, you're not going to have that car. It's just going to live on a spec sheet. It's just going to live on your computer background. It's just going to be a dream car or a fantasy. So the second thing to consider is price. What is my budget? Can I make a big enough down payment? What's my monthly going to be? Even past that, how much does it cost to own the car? Maintenance, oil changes, tires, that kind of thing. It's one thing to budget to buy the car. It's another thing to be able to insure it and keep it running and keep it nice. And if you're buying a new car, those are things that you kind of have to consider. And now once you get past the purpose and the price of the car you want, then you can get into the real meat and potatoes. For me, the next thing that comes up is presence. To me, the road presence of a car is very, very important because, I mean, what's the point of buying a car if you don't like how you look in it, you don't like how you feel in it? Part of that comes from how you feel driving the car, what kind of presence you're exerting on the road. Does it look good rolling down the street? Does it look good on the highway? Is it going to catch people's attention? Road presence is a big deal to me. The other type of presence is curb appeal. You know, if you're pulling into a car meet, if you're pulling into your parking lot, if you're cruising down the street, are you going to feel good in your car? Is this a car that people are going to know it's there? Is it a car that people respect? Is it a car that people find annoying? These are things you got to consider because, one, it's a good way to make connections with people, but two, if you have a car with a negative perception and you catch someone on an off day, that's a good way to get a target on your back or your car's back. Presence is huge. Personally, I want a car that's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more sporty, a little bit more muscular. That's why I like the WRX. The WRX had a lot of sharp angles. It looked like it was wide body from certain angles. It had great body lines, in my opinion, and overall, with some light modifications, that car had great road presence and curb appeal. The BRZ, on the other hand, was great to drive. It was super agile, but I don't think it had enough of a presence for me to match my personality. To me, the BRZ was like the super sleek and curvy but small car. It was almost dainty in its road presence. There were several times I would be driving to work and SUVs and trucks wouldn't even see me because it's a very small car. Getting the exhaust did help with that, but at the end of the day, I don't think it had the presence I want. I wanted something a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier, a little bit more aggressive, you know? But people did confuse the BRZ for a Porsche, so that's a plus. But yeah, in my case, I'm looking for something more muscular, more beefy, more aggressive. Something that's not quite in your face, but can handle business. Now, this fourth P goes hand in hand with presence, so you can really put them in whichever order you want. The fourth P is performance. I have had 2 cars now with vastly different presences and vastly different performances. The WRX had a very aggressive presence, and I kind of made it that way with the wrap and the wing and the aero and whatnot, but the performance was not there. It was stock at the end of the day. It was a turbo 4-cylinder, and it behaved like a stock turbo 4-cylinder. It wasn't fast, it was decently quick, it was all-wheel drive, but at the end of the day, I think I was so focused on making the thing look good and turning it into this rolling art piece that was my vision that I didn't spend enough time upgrading the performance. And at the same time, because it is a Subaru, the platform was not confidence inspiring to start putting performance mods into it. I didn't want to spend 10,000 on a motor and mods just to blow it. And the same goes for the BRZ. The BRZ, I didn't do much of anything to it really. I kept it pretty stock because I realized that though the car was quick, it was quicker than the WRX and it was rear-wheel drive and it was more fun than the WRX, I was not going to use it to its full potential, which is really a fun, sporty track car on a budget. And I wasn't going to be going to the track anytime soon or often, and because of that, I didn't see the point in modifying the BRZ aesthetically and performance-wise. And it also got to the point where I realized that the performance I wanted did not match the platform of the BRZ. So because of that, I kind of bailed on that platform. BRZ is a great car and it's got so much potential, but like I said in my review video and the why I'm selling the BRZ video, my vision just did not match the performance or the platform or the potential of the car. Performance is definitely a huge consideration. I want a car that can look aggressive and be aggressive. I want a car that looks mean and can be mean. As I get older, I'm becoming less of a fan of cars that look mean and fast, but are all show and no go. I want a little bit of go with my show. So that's why performance is becoming a bigger deal to me, and that's why performance is now one of the 7 pillars of what I look for in a car. How much horsepower does it make? How does it drive? Is it mainly just a cruiser? Is it for canyon carving? You know, how is it on turns? How's the chassis? These are things that I never really used to worry about, but I'm starting to. And because gasoline engines, and especially like performance gasoline engines, are starting to go out of style in the manufacturer world, it's becoming more and more important to me to get one before they go extinct. At the end of the day, I want a car that's more aggressive, more muscular, more sporty, and has the performance in terms of power and handling to match. The next P is practicality. Now the bar for this shifts depending on what kind of car you get, why you got the car. You know, a Miata is not going to be as practical as an M3. A Mustang isn't going to be as practical as a Dodge Charger in terms of space and storage. So obviously practicality varies. And with this next car, I'm not planning on using it as a daily, but it has to be able to behave as one if I need it to. How many things can it store? Can it store stuff for a weekend trip for my girlfriend and I? Can it store 2 luggages, a backpack, some car cleaning supplies? How's the back seat? Can I fit somebody if I need to? Can I put backpacks back there? The answer for some of these questions is no. You know, things like a Corvette where there's literally no back seat. Things like the BRZ, where you could fit someone back there as long as they had no legs, but there was enough room to put backpacks back there, that kind of thing. Practicality wise, it's not the biggest deal to me, but the car should still be usable. Things like the Supra, way too small, no back seat. There could be a decent trunk, but I do need a little bit more room. I need something a little bit bigger than that. I don't expect to be able to carry a family of 4, but if I'm going somewhere and somebody needs a ride, I have to be able to be like, yeah, hop in. And I'm not too worried about snow. I don't plan on ever taking my new car out in the snow, but it should be able to handle in the rain, and with the right tire, it should be able to go out in the snow if it has to. But that being said, practicality wise, it's more about storage. Can I go to the grocery store? Can I take an extra person with me? Can I pack up for a weekend trip? Can I pack up for a cross-country road trip with me and another person? That's what I mean by practicality. And now, following practicality, and probably more important to me, is personal comfort or passenger comfort. Really just comfort, but I wanted it to start with a P for the sake of the 7 Ps. Comfort is a big deal, especially if you're spending the money. For this car, I've set a much higher budget than the WRX or the BRZ, and because of that, I expect more creature comforts. The WRX, pretty good interior. Cloth seats, they were heated, they weren't power, they were pretty comfortable to sit in, but they weren't tight in the bolstering. It was like a good in-between of performance and comfort. It felt like a sporty sedan, which is what the WRX was. The BRZ, much better for driving, much more comfortable seats for driving. The bolsters hugged you way better, but the entire car was just much more bare bones. There wasn't a lot of tech. I don't even remember if the seats were heated, but they definitely weren't ventilated. They weren't electric. No memory seats. It would take me a lot of time to have to get back into my proper seating position or something that felt right. It got to the point where I literally took Sharpie and I had to put a line in the seat frame slider thing just to make sure I got back to the distance that I wanted to be at. And then the reclining thing was just, that was just annoying. The WRX had heated seats, but it did not have cooled seats. And even though they were cloth and they didn't get as hot as leather, it still got hot in the summer. You can have the AC blasting, your buns are still cooking. I feel like for my next car, I would want something with a little bit more luxurious interior, maybe some leather, maybe some ventilated seats would be good. Some interior lighting, that's something that I felt like the BRZ was missing. The BRZ was so bare bones on the inside because it was such a driver's car, but you kind of do lose some of that luxurious feeling. And I think that's something that I ended up wanting out of the BRZ. And I figured that if I wanted to do it, I would either have to spend a lot of money for something aftermarket, or I could just save up and look for that in my next car. At the end of the day, personal comfort matters. I think it matters more than practicality, because if you're spending the money, you better like being in that car. And your passengers better like being in that car, because it's one thing to have a loud performance sports car. It's another thing to have a loud performance sports car that nobody wants to be in, including you. If I'm spending the money, I better be comfortable. And the last P, the 7th P. The first 6 Ps were all about the initial, the first contact with the car in the first few months, first year with the car, first years with the car even. But this last P is all about the lifetime of the car. And if you plan on keeping it forever, I believe that the car, the platform as a whole, better have potential. This was something that became very apparent to me with the WRX and the BRZ, just Subaru in general. They were great platforms for light modification, but the potential for power, you quickly hit the ceiling on that in terms of the risk versus the reward. I, for my next car, want a platform that's a great starting point. It has power off the bat. It's got a good chassis off the bat. It's sporty, it's tough, it's aggressive, it's fast. Fast is now a relative term, but fast, but also has a platform with potential. Are there a lot of aftermarket parts that I can buy and put on this car to really make it my own? How is the design of the car? Is it gonna look dated in 5 years when new cars come out? Can it keep up? What is the potential to make this car look good? Not just now, not just next year, but for however long you want to hold the car. Ideally, this next car that I'm getting, I want to hold forever. So does it have potential to keep up in the looks department forever? And more than just a looks department, does it have the potential to expand on its power? The next car I'm looking for is double the power, more than double the power of the BRZ. To get to that level with the BRZ, I would have to spend a lot of money. I would have to increase my risk substantially just to get to the starting point of this next car that I'm looking for. And because of that, I wanted to make sure that this next car starts at a better position and has a higher ceiling in terms of what I can do in the power department. It's got a great aftermarket for looks, so the potential there is limited by my imagination and my budget. It's got tried and true and tested aftermarket potential for power, and that's a big deal. This is a platform that people have been modifying for years, and I have a generally good idea of the kind of power you can achieve with just some light modifications. What does that mean? That means that my risk is lower and my rewards are higher. So potential is the 7th P that I'm looking for when I'm looking for a car. So those are the 7 Ps of car searching. Those are the 7 Ps I'll be using to buy my new car. It's not a great time to buy a car, but this might be the only time to buy the car I want. Let me know if you guys have any other Ps or even just pieces of advice for what you guys look for in a car. And let me know if the 7 Ps that I presented cover all the bases. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments. I'm actually looking at a car tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. With that being said, thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this. And I definitely have some upcoming stuff both this spring and summer, especially if I get this new car. Stay tuned.